Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
All right, everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. Super excited. I don't think this guest, did you say 5 years? Were you joking or was that true?
You know, time seems a bit strange now, but I feel like it was 2017, 2018. When did you start?
You know what? I'm worse. I'm terrible about time myself. Maybe we should skip this question. Because because I really can't tell time. I mean, like, to me, I think I met everyone 2 months ago. That's how my life is. I met everyone 2 months ago. And people get mad because it's like, we've been friends for years. And I was like, oh, all right. So let me even give, before I even introduce you, folks, check out my Patreon if you want to learn tarot and psychic development. It's Patreon.com/Rontowski. Check out my psychic stand-up special, which is on my Paranormal Karen podcast page on YouTube. I hope that makes sense. Kathleen Oh, Coach Kathleen Oh is back. And some of you may remember because you still talk about the lady that came on and talked about dragons. I had Kathleen on. She was talking to us about dragon energy and dragons. It was fantastic. Well, I didn't see her. She disappeared from the internet or from everything, all the algorithms. And I was like, what happened to Kathleen? And I was like, I probably made a stupid joke and maybe she left me, but that's not true. She's here to talk to us about two of my new favorite things, which is breathing. I should probably be more specific. And mushrooms. Kathleen, hello. Tell me what's going on. You disappeared. What happened?
Yeah, Karen, thank you. And, you know, I love that people call me the woman that talked about the dragons. It was a lovely time to be sharing that information. And a lot of people from that podcast ended up in my world.
Awesome.
So wherever you are, all the people, thank you. And so I love that you say your new favorite thing is breathing. I'm not sure what you were doing up until this point, but good job. Good job for staying in a body. Drugs, microdosing, psilocybin is one of my, I'm blowing the horn about this on, and it is in as many places as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
But I disappeared quickly because I have been banned from Instagram. Have a really big following on TikTok, but I got a little jaded. You know, I was putting a lot out there and getting some real hard pushback. So I just have these conversations with people that want to hear it and will show up to be educated and listen. So this is a real privilege to be able to be here and to talk about this and to be with you. So it's amazing.
Oh yeah. I'm so excited we reconnected because I actually right now, so I was done with Twitter. They wouldn't this is what they do. They wouldn't let me take down my account, which is okay. I used it once or twice and my podcast gets posted there. I don't know if anyone sees it anymore. But I'm almost all the way off Facebook, just post, don't answer. And then I was like, well, Instagram is going to be the place I'll be. And then my Instagram account got duplicated exactly like mine, Rontowski, with a line under it. Oops, sorry, I should have turned that off. And everyone that on my Instagram knew I couldn't stand it because they were contacting friends and telling people, I had a feeling about you, I want a reading. And it's happening to all readers and psychics right now on Instagram. And they wouldn't give me the blue check. And finally it's down. But I believe this year, that Verizon is having cyber attacks that they're not talking about. The way phones are all of a sudden, I was in CVS, everybody's phone went down, all the bars, it all went off at once. I got to tech support. They got hung up on and she called me back and was like, I don't know what I did. So I think we're getting pushed off of that, at least right now. Something's going on with that. But now let's get to our better topic. So great decision. And also, I do feel like TikTok, maybe because it's China and not the United States, I don't know how much stuff is being limited on TikTok, and I like that.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of community violations with TikTok as well, because honestly, we're talking about illegal substances, and there's a lot of people that complain. There's people, there's a ton of stigma, there's a ton of fear, and these are powerful drugs. And so people do need to be cautious, but what we've been told and what we've been taught is based out of a political agenda and not, people's mental health in consideration. So TikTok has had a few conversations with me about whether or not my content is safe. And I always give disclaimers. I always let people know that this isn't for everyone. And TikTok has been reasonable. And there was one specific, there was many community violations. There was many appeals. There was many times that I was able to get my content back, all but one. So TikTok, even though like I said, I haven't been producing on any social media platforms in literally months, I have a soft place in my heart for TikTok, because a lot of my videos went viral. A lot of information got out there. I was able to meet an entirely different community. And I have an enormous gratitude for TikTok. Instagram, on the other hand, I was also doing a lot of really good content and community and collaboration with a lot of creators on the platform. I would be considered a mini influencer. I had around 6K followers, but I have 130 plus K on TikTok. Great. And TikTok gives you people. Instagram, you really have to work for them. So what I worked for on Instagram took me 3 years, and it was literally gone. I had no warning. There was a conversation that was happening, and it was a concerned parent. I'm not going to claim that nothing happened. It was a concerned parent that said that I was acting like a cool mom and being a negative influence on her child. And all of what she said happened on TikTok. So I'm not sure what brought her to Instagram. But there were people in my private messages that were messaging me in the psychedelic world. So, my colleagues saying, this is a professional troll. Whoever this is knows where this is going. And eventually I was taken off as somebody who was causing child endangerment.
This makes me crazy.
Yeah. So someone in the world, one person with an opinion about my work, compared to 6,000 people that are there voluntarily, had the authority to be able to, whether or not it was a real person or a troll, had the ability to just wipe it out. And I know this, and if anybody's out there listening, as a creator on social media, we put our hearts into that. And I'm not doing that for Zuckerberg or whoever's out there benefiting from it. I'm just not. So I answer my emails. I answer my phone. I have an old-fashioned website. I do things ethically and morally. And I talk about drugs. So most people want to talk about drugs privately. So I can do that.
Yeah. And you know what else? It's as a comedian, I was thinking, could I make it just on YouTube? Could I just, but I'll tell you a little, the other people know this is going on, but it's about my wicked streak. When I'm wicked like a fairy. I had a $2,000 bill from Kaiser, and they were wrong. And they said, no, you got to pay it or we're ruining your credit. You're in Canada, so you don't know these terrible healthcare things. And so I literally found the CEO on Twitter and did a joke about him every day. Mean, I'm not really a mean comic. And then finally the phone rang one day, and it was a very nervous lady. And she said, I'm calling you from Kaiser, and we would like to make this right. So we're erasing your $2,000 bill. Now, I started that 2 days ago with the CEO of Twitter. And I don't know if that did work or it didn't, because I will tell you, Instagram is now, or the CEO of Instagram, that's who I went after. And I don't know that he saw it, but I can't imagine if it gets embarrassing enough that they don't go turn to an assistant or somebody, go, just fix that. He didn't even block me. It was very weird. So maybe it was a coincidence, but that my advice to everyone is get some small penis jokes and point them at the CEO, because it seems to help things move along. But they are all bots now. Instagram is all bots. I had probably over 1,000 people reporting this account. My other friends that are psychics, it's still up. Like, this is going beyond dangerous. And now I have the hackers calling me and the hackers emailing me that are the ones you pay to get the other account down. And I'm like, this is all. I had to send in a picture of me with my driver's license, and they kept saying it wasn't me, and you can only submit it every couple days. And then I finally had to put on the exact same outfit in my profile. I don't know which one did it, but anyways, people that were watching knew like how crazy I went. So you have found your own way, and maybe I'll be over there just on TikTok with you at some point. So now you have found your way. You have your audience. You pick whichever topic you want to start with, the breathing or the mushrooms, because I love both of them.
Oh, good. Yeah, me too. Well, it's funny that you mentioned I'm in Canada and the Kaiser. I thought you were talking about buns, but yeah, we don't have that problem here. Yes. And when I did try to appeal it with Instagram, just to wrap up the Instagram saga, there was absolutely no response. Mm-hmm. And I paid one of those hackers to hack and try to
reopen,
install my, reinstate my account. I should have known. It was 500 US Bitcoin, and nothing happened. So, I don't regret it, but it's over. And when it was completely over, there was some peace around it. So I I don't feel any resentment other than it was a good time. All of it was good until it wasn't. So yeah. Let's talk. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about breathwork because it was my first love. And then I'm going to talk about psychedelics because it's my biggest love. And they're related actually. And so the introduction of breathwork happened for me in 2001. It was something that I had done to overcome a lot of my life and figure out more clarity and more purpose. So it has kind of been the common thread and the best tool for me through the times in my life where it was the most, I would say, kind of relational transitions, job changes and career changes and relationship changes. So things that I could somewhat control from the outside, I got a lot of clarity with breathwork. But I continued to do it. And it's something like now I know, especially now after these last 2 years we've had and how much access we have to being with real people in real life. I learned that in my past, I learned that it was something you had to do in community with a facilitator. In these last 2 years, I have learned that you can do it anywhere, anyhow, with your own breath, and let that be the most powerful tool and resource that you have at your disposal. So that's the one thing that I love about breathwork, is that it is always there, and you can do as much or as little as you want, and it will create a substantial change in your brain chemistry. So it's not just about relaxation. It's not just about, being able to kind of get more into the body. It's really about changing the brain chemistry so that you allow yourself to see and think differently. See, meaning like see the world and feel the world and be in the world differently.
And it's not easy.
No, it's not. That's the thing. It takes a lot of effort, and oftentimes when things are good for us, we resist them. Mm-hmm. We think, why would I want to do this? Why would I want to feel this? Why would I want to make these changes? And oftentimes, especially with the way that a lot of this too, Karen, just so you know, there is some research around breath work, but it's not like most of what I'm telling you is anecdotal, and it's also experiential. So in my 20 years of breath work, I have had really profound changes, things that I, may not have been able to access within myself to make a better version of myself happen. So, and understanding, having more depth and understanding of my trauma or my addiction. So this is where psychedelics come in, because at a certain point in my life, I was no longer able to manage my myself just with breath work, because I had uncovered an addiction and had decided that I would help myself by overcoming the addiction. And I joined a 12-step program, which is like abstinence. It's full abstinence. And becoming abstinent from something that had kept me going for most of my life, really fucked me badly. I had, outside of the addiction, no longer addicted. I had nothing to kind of keep me together. And I really, truly did not understand how much I had been coping with life through very like gray area drinking, binge eating, overeating, consuming foods that weren't good for me. And when I removed all of those things, my life literally I felt disintegrated. I was completely all over the place. It was what I now know as an existential awakening or crisis, depending on the day. And one of the things that breathwork didn't do was, because I could not feel grounded or focused enough to get myself in that state, I needed to find something else, and it was psychedelics.
I think, I don't know what it is. Did you happen to see the movie on Hulu called Dope Sick?
No, I didn't.
It's literally about the prescription companies. It's how what you're hitting on there. There's a couple of things. It's about opioids. Everyone should watch it and remember that's who's making your prescriptions and your drugs. And it's just I love that you're talking about these two things. And I almost feel like I have to put up a disclaimer, but I'm not gonna until somebody yells at me, because this is, they want to push prescriptions everywhere. They want to keep information from people. But I do think sometimes with I don't think the way that we're doing addiction is for everyone, because even though it sounds like it worked out good in the end, sometimes people can't make it because it's so intense. So there's no net after, is what I feel like. Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even I had professional support, and like my therapist and my team of people that I call on when I need, some insight on my life. And my therapist did say that he wasn't sure, he couldn't be sure that I wasn't having a manic episode. And so I, being in mental health for the last 25 years, understood that I needed something that was going to do a different, something different in my body. And in that moment, I discovered how psychedelics work. And there were a few things. There were a few people that were talking about near-death experiences, and that also people that had spiritual emergences, situations with psychedelics. And the way they described those experiences was what I was having on the daily. I was like, I couldn't get myself like grounded and normal. And I know that life goes on, but I really needed to be able to solve this problem without becoming re-addicted, because I was, Karen, I was scared. And I haven't seen the show that I've seen, Crime of the Century. And, I have some bias about that, and they're not popular opinions. But there are reasons why people are addicted, and there are reasons why these drugs are illegal. And a lot of it has to do with the war on drugs. And this is a political agenda towards Black and brown people. So now that the drug companies are affecting white people, this is a bigger problem. But drug companies and addicted communities has been a problem in other minorities and races for decades. Like, this isn't, it just wasn't a problem in our faces until it became a bigger problem in communities that were primarily white. So yeah, I have, this is not a new problem. We are seeing it because it's affecting people like us.
And that's where I think the Oxycontin and why the movie is out there. And it's a series, and it's pretty phenomenal. And I'll say this one last thing, and then we're going to the break. About addiction is, if someone says something to me like, I regret I spent all those years drinking, I regret I spent all those years whatever, some of that is you spent all that time coping with what you had, and now you're on the other side. So I hope that makes sense. All right, folks, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, just want to let you know my tarot class is on sale this weekend only until the 23rd, or the 23rd. I believe it runs out at midnight. So that'll be 2 days. You can get half off when you go to karenrontowski.com and click on tarot. And then you're going to use the coupon code October, all capital letters October. Also, November 1st, I finally have a Patreon. I know I'm so far behind everyone else. It is a tarot and psychic development. So it's going to be some paranormal, but mostly tarot and psychic development. I'm going to be putting up classes myself that are tarot classes, and we're going to be doing meditations and psychic exercises, and there's going to be homework and all kinds of fun stuff. I'm also going to have guests come on and tell us about their process, how they do their thing. So November 1st, the first class will be out. November 4th, patreon.com/Rontowski. So like I said in the first half, Kathleen, not only are you welcome to give your opinions here, my audience is really good about, they take what they agree with, and they don't. I've never had anybody really get mad at me about an opinion on this. The only thing is people just hate that I had a flat earth guy on. And I was just like, okay. He contacted me. I was like, okay, well, it's interesting. And people are just like, I don't like the flat earth guy. And I'm like, okay, all right. But please feel free. I let people say what they want here until I'm canceled, which I don't believe in cancel culture. So, So in other words, let's recap. The breathing exercises opened up so much, and then the psychedelics just took down that wall. When you're talking about not being grounded, that's a huge thing right now. And I'm feeling that in my own healing a lot. And I will say this, because I'm vegan and I don't eat meat or anything like that, but I know other people that eat meat to stay grounded. It's different for everybody. But tell us how you found psychedelics and what happened when you did that.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for I know we're good with each other's opinions. And I think that, just to kind of recap on that, a lot of people really aren't aware that that's why these drugs are illegal, and why, we are told that certain drugs are dangerous or are, problematic. And there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that are not accurate when it comes to these particular drugs. So, yeah. The thing with psychedelics is that compared to other drugs where they're stimulants and they're like pushing people to kind of push beyond the anxiety, or their brains are like kind of leapfrogging into a higher state, like all the stimulants that do that, either it's ADD drugs or cocaine, like that's what those are doing. But the psychedelics are actually everything down. So they're, like you said, pulling back the layers.
Okay, your phone clicked out for a second. You said the psychedelics actually calm you down?
They slow your brain down.
Oh, slow it down.
It's not even about calming. Yeah. So the thought processes that happen in the brain happen more slowly, so you're not in a reactive state. So and you're able to make, instead of reacting, which is a familiar pattern, you're able to reassess and evaluate what's happening in that moment, and then make a choice or a decision, which is usually different than what you would have done in that reactive state. You're more able to breathe and, be in your body and not in that fight or flight state. You're in this place of choice and decision, and also problem solving, and it's more solution oriented, because instead of running away from that feeling, we're able to see it for what it is and make a decision around it. And then the beautiful thing about psilocybin mushrooms specifically is that they're also creating neurogenesis. So not only are we making the choice in the moment, but we're recreating patterns. So in the future, we are able to continue to go down that path of different choices and changes, rather than, catching yourself in the loop of just not, if you're working with stimulants, you need the stimulant to bypass that feeling. If you're working with psychedelics, you're actually actively and proactively in the moment, choosing to feel better and to do better. So,
and I was going to say,
it's not a magic pill, though.
Right. But also when they're making those neuropaths, or you called them the scientific thing, I'll make up my word neuropaths. Then it's almost like you're making it so you wouldn't have to take them forever if you didn't want to.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty, is most people, and that's why there's a few things about it. They're not addictive. Most people can't take or tolerate more than a small amount unless they're in a therapeutic setting or in sort of a recreational dose. So there's never, ever been known a case of overdosing. You can absolutely take too much, but it's not going to
kill you unless you're allergic. Kill you.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know that I guess people have mushroom allergies, but things like LSD, MDMA, ketamine, they're chemicals, and I haven't heard allergy specifically, but so in that case though, it's meant to be a treatment that helps you find, like they've used, this is a big claim, but they claim at Imperial College in the UK and at NYU, these medications or drugs or like plant medicine is a cure, because when people come out of it with the support that they are working with, integration, or somehow, like if you take drugs and you go about your day and do everything exactly the same, it's not going to change anything. But if you're really curious and working with your inner resources, allowing yourself to feel feelings you've never felt, either the pain of your life or the joy of your life, because it opens you up to both, then life becomes richer and more interesting and less dependent on feeling the feelings of hopelessness. And, people are more optimistic. They're more able to see the world as a place that, where they can have hope. So that change in somebody's constitution is going to help them be a better neighbor. Mm-hmm. Like we're not even looking at, being a better, scientist or whatever we just are just better people in general. And there are a few people out there that can't take it. And those are the people that have some serious psychiatric mental, predispositions to psychosis and psychiatric mental health, that they're not good candidates, but that's because they don't have research around it.
Yes.
And those brains are fragile.
And there's a couple of things that I'm going to back up for a second too. You're talking about, so right now we're talking about microdosing, not taking a whole mushroom trip, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Interesting, because also I feel like mushrooms, especially microdosing, because that's what I'm going to leave. We'll change the conversation to that if we choose. But I feel like they are, you're almost directly connected with Mother Earth. And it's very interesting because people would think they're not about grounding, and I think they exactly are. They're very good for your intuition. And so, in other words, what you're saying is somebody that's doing, instead of numbing out, whatever we were numbing out with, whether it's food or alcohol or weed, it's the opposite. So say I have a rageaholic father or something like that, and then I'm always in fight or flight. I start taking the mushrooms a little bit at a time, work on myself. I can get to this point where I work out of that and don't need the mushrooms, correct?
That's true. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went from that state of like completely disassembled to not taking mushrooms. So I started microdosing in 2016. By 2018, I was not microdosing. And then there was a few things like real milestones that were happening in my life in 2019. And I kind of use them as necessary now. And then at that point, I was probably taking them maybe 6 weeks out of the year, and then in the beginning of March, or, the beginning of the pandemic, 2020, and everything, the bottom fell out. I microdosed for 3 months, and that is when a lot of things changed in my work and my career. And I really had to be focused on pivoting and being a different practitioner in the ways that I was. And it's when I was able to start an online breathwork practice. I was serving more people. I had wanted to do these things for years. And, it was kind of an unfortunate set of circumstances that brought this opportunity. But in that solution focused place in my brain, I was able to find the answers instead of shutting down.
I think
so it's a wonderful resource.
I think that's just the way we learn. Sometimes it's an unfortunate situation that brings us to a solution. I think that's kind of how life works, and that's not bad.
True. Unless people are spinning their wheels in anxiety. Oftentimes in those moments, even a smart, capable person can't just lift themselves out of the depths of their fear. And, we were all in it. And, I'm not saying I'm special. I'm just saying at the time it was what I needed, and I was able to get myself out of it. But in the past, I would have been like chasing my tail. I know at that moment, breath work wouldn't have been enough. And it was the thing that I was able to just know. It was my trusted source of getting through hard things. And I did. And at this point, we're in 2022. I can't actually remember the last time I microdosed, but one of the things that I do, which we may inevitably end up on this path, but I do full trips. And those are the things that kind of keep me, more clear. And that happens on a, 2 to 3 times a year circumstance. And those are the things that kind of it's like an emotional reset. So that feels like it's my medicine now.
And so let's talk about that. And do you do that? Well, first of all, this is I'm going to go back a little bit in the conversation. In Canada, is pot legal?
Pot, yes, it is.
Okay, because it is here
legal,
too,
yeah.
and I actually think that I think that's a good thing, and I know that there's an excessive amount of pot being used in California. I think it's the state smell now, but I think that was a good move for a lot of reasons, and I think mushrooms should go that way, which they are actually in Portland right now. You can also order spores and grow your own. But when you do a full trip, is that with a shaman? Is that just in your house? Do you have someone around? How do you do that?
Good question. Yes. So a lot, again, has changed with access and people, what is available out there. And so I used to guide. I have been guided. And I was trained with a group of guides that, we were all becoming guides together. And so that was the beginning of my training, and the work that I felt was, it was in a container that felt like that was the way to do it. And just like breath work, I was taught that the psychedelic work and the healing work that needs to be done has to be done with a shaman or a facilitator or a guide. And I believe that because, I didn't want to be in control of myself in those situations. I honestly wanted to have somebody else in the driver's seat in those moments because they're powerful experiences. But I have a vastly different opinion now. And with education and access, we are in Canada, we have decriminalized in big cities psychedelics, and that is what has happened in some of the US cities. Psychedelics are still considered illegal in almost every country in the world. So it's not like it's coming, but it's not legal.
That's amazing. That's amazing because I don't think people have that much trouble with ayahuasca. I don't think anyone has trouble with ayahuasca.
Well, ayahuasca falls into religious ceremony, and if it's performed within a religious context or within a sacred context, which it falls under a religion, then they are able to legally use ayahuasca. But ayahuasca itself is not legal.
Well, it's interesting because I'm going to say a friend, not me.
Okay.
Have ordered from a company that can send you ayahuasca to microdose. That company is in Greece, and it is ayahuasca. I don't know if that's illegal or if my friend will be arrested, but that's interesting to know. I don't think anyone has ever in the United States been arrested for ayahuasca, but other countries, I don't know that I'd ever challenge anything because you don't know. I don't know why I feel comfortable being arrested in America rather than another country, but for some reason I'm under the impression we have a legal system, but I'm not really sure about that right now. Okay, so okay, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you because then I have a line of questions whenever. Go ahead and keep talking.
Yeah, no problem. So ayahuasca, I don't know. Most of these things you can get on the internet. If you follow me on my very lame Instagram account, which I keep for people to ask me questions in my DMs, which if you follow me, you will be followed by probably, I would at minimums 30 to 50 drug plugs.
What's a drug plug?
So somebody you follow me and then they see who's following me and then they follow you. And then they come into your DMs and say, do you want to buy? And then they give you a list of all the things that you can buy, including cocaine and fentanyl. Like you can buy anything online. It's sad, but it is available and it is illegal and they still do it. And psilocybin is illegal. And there are companies that I do recommend people buy it from, not those people, and never buy from somebody that isn't a friend or a friend of a friend or somebody that you've, got a recommendation from, because one, you're either not going to get it, or two, you're going to possibly get a really not good quality product. So I do work with a company out of Portland and they ship it all over the US and actually now internationally.
Can you tell us the name of that company or no?
Well, I can tell people that they can. Yeah, Golden Euphorics. Okay. If you come into my TikTok account or my Instagram account, there's this is where you get this microdosing capsules. In Canada, there's a different company, and in the US, there's a different company because they can't ship cross-border. And I have a coupon code, which is Coach K, so you can get a discount if you buy it there. But the guy, the person that's selling the psilocybin, is a herbalist. He's a master herbalist. He has survived through cancer. He blesses his psilocybin on an altar. He has a lineage that he has respect and you.
Oops, your phone went blank for a minute. He has respect and
sorry.
Okay.
So he has respect for the medicine, and he, through his lineage have this healing. He's a healer.
Okay. And
So,
everybody's ears just popped. So I'm going to make sure, and I'm not going to put this in the show notes, folks, just in case, because I think, so it's Golden and Euphorics. How does he spell that?
EUPHORICS.
And Coach K is all capital letters or all lowercase?
Either is fine. Just one word, smushed. Yeah.
Okay. And then
and
go ahead, and then
it's on my TikTok. So they can find him and everything on my TikTok. And it's in Portland. So this is a person who has found the most legal way to use the law to send the products throughout the US. There's still a risk, and the risk is that you may not get the product. The chances of somebody getting arrested for carrying 3 grams of psilocybin, they have better things to do. But if people are not if their anxiety legal online is higher than the benefit of getting it, they should not be buying it.
Right.
There are definitely people that carry enormous anxiety about legality of things. So it's 100% illegal. There's nothing legal about it at this point.
Okay.
But the most legal thing is how this particular company is doing it.
And it's not that, I kind of want to say it's not that hard to find. And also, I have seen ads for the pills and I ignored them because I thought this is very interesting. I'm very curious here. Is there something else in it or that makes it legal, or is it a lower dose, or it's an actual micro dose? I'm kind of fascinated.
It's a microdose and it's illegal.
Okay. All right. So
that's it.
And here's the other thing too. I mean, I don't know. I think the police right now, I'm not going to encourage anyone. She is absolutely right. If you're more nervous about having that on you, do not get it. Wait and let the universe bring it to you somewhere else. But I'm glad this is out there. I do know the companies that can legally sell the spores are in Portland, and that's not a big deal, but you have to get your own grow kit and all that stuff, which is a process. That's not an easy thing, people. But I find this fascinating that he can do this, and he hasn't been shut down yet.
No, he does get shut down on TikTok for community violations. People do say, this is somebody who shouldn't be doing this. But I mean, just pops up again.
The police don't come to his house.
No. And, he lives in a body that is has a black body. Like he is a target for these kinds of experiences. And he would be safe in Oregon doing this and where he's from. Because, well, to be honest, that's not true, actually. I don't know the ins and outs of the law, and I don't want to be making a mistake.
Sure, we'll leave it there.
But he is in the best circumstance. So,
okay,
to be able to do this,
and we wish him well. And we're going to take a break.
He's wonderful.
Oh, great! We're going to take a break and then come back and talk about full trips, and we're going to cross the topic of bad trips. So hang on, folks. Hang on before you take those drugs. All right. Hey, I'm here with my friend Ari that hosts, or I want to say takes care of all my Zoom events, my comedy shows, my classes. Ari, tell everybody what type of Zoom events you are great at hosting.
Yeah, so I really take care of any kind of Zoom event, from a virtual camp to lecture series, cooking classes, celebrations like weddings or bar and bat mitzvahs, really anything.
And to me, it just looks like you make my life easier. I just have to click on and talk, which is beautiful. Tell everybody, what are you doing behind the scenes that helps me so much?
Yeah, so I'm taking care of all of the settings, like muting and spotlighting people, making breakout rooms, recording the meeting, really just all of the tech pieces you might think of or not think of. I'm taking care of that.
That is so helpful. And it really is the difference between something looking amateurish and something looking really professional and wanting people to come back to your meeting again. So tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, so you're welcome to email me at wharton.ari@gmail.com. That's WHARTON.ARI@gmail.com. And feel welcome to email me with any questions and find out how we can work together.
And your rates are so reasonable, it's crazy. So everybody, wharton.airy@gmail. I'm going to try and have it in the show notes. If you can't find her or you don't know how to rewind the podcast, just email. I'll get you connected. Thanks, Ari.
Thanks, Karen.
All right, folks, so we're back. So now you're totally okay doing a trip alone. Now, here's the question, because I don't know if it's you really have to be ready to give away control, because the time I did ayahuasca, or someone just like me did ayahuasca, I was around other people who were having control issues, and it did not go well for them. So when someone decides they're going to do a full mushroom trip, can you tell us, just give us advice and tell us how yours was?
Yeah, for sure. And I have not had an experience with ayahuasca, so I can't relate the two, but I have had full trips with MDMA, psilocybin, and LSD. So there's a lot that is offered between the three of them, but I don't have any direct experience with ayahuasca. So I would recommend for anybody that is going to do this is that they be fully prepared, and also knowing, like, even if the point is a therapeutic trip, any amount, even microdosing that you're taking, is therapy. So what I would recommend for anybody starting out is to be able to really get to know. We're going to talk about mushrooms because I think that that's the easiest place to begin. Mm-hmm. And it's just a slow and low process. So start with a gram, then move up to 1.5, 1.8, 2 grams. So you can do a 1 gram trip. It'll be over in 4 to 5 hours. You may laugh, you may cry, you might get to know yourself in a different way. You may say, this is the best, this is the worst experience. I may or may not want to do it again. But as you increase the dose, you are increasing the likelihood of things being more intense. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a 1 gram dose, most people can manage a 1 gram dose. Some people, they know that their tolerance is low, so they start even lower than that. But a 1 gram dose can be something that is like friendly and light or a little bit of everything. Moving up into the therapeutic settings, there are playlists that are out there that are to guide you. And it's not necessarily guiding like words, guiding with music. The music changes our brain. This person that puts together these playlists named Mandel Kalin from the Imperial College in the UK, he puts together the psilocybin therapeutic playlist. So when you are in a therapeutic setting with the medicine, you're receiving this experience with the music, which a neuroscientist, PhD musician has curated. So I think that's a gift to the world. I think it will guide people into those places, and it keeps you in a container. In those out of control situations, what's going to happen is a lot of laughter or crying or a little bit of realization that things were a certain way, and that often creates a relief. But when you're on those higher dose trips, it's like getting on a plane to France. You get on in New York and you get off in France, and there's no in between. You're not getting yourself,
right.
A break in between. So the 6 hours that you're investing in that trip is yours to manage. And I honestly, Karen, I have seen so much growth, and it creates within somebody, if they're willing to do this brave work, it creates autonomy. It creates personal agency. Somebody being able to intimately experience their trauma without having the outward experience of judgment of, am I doing this right? When is this going to be over? Somebody's got to help me. We are in this life, in this body, to fucking figure it out. And we are capable. So, but really with education, with intention, with, the right drugs, the right access, in a safe setting. Like all of the preparation is necessary, but it's
oops, your phone broke out again.
Experiences that I've had, like
we lost you for a second there. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm gonna back up a second and put it to you this way too. I'm gonna ask this for anyone that's curious. Okay, for someone that hasn't done this, and we're talking about a full trip. I'm sitting in my apartment. I have done a full trip. Do I still see my apartment? Am I in a different place? Am I seeing a different reality? What am I physically seeing if I've done a full dose?
Yeah, it's personal to everybody, but yes, you're in your body. Yes, you're in your apartment. You can use, you can go to the bathroom, you can drink water. You're pretty okay. It comes in waves. If anybody there's one thing that comes often if women have given birth. They say this is a lot like childbirth. It comes in waves. It's these feelings that wash over your body. So it's not like a full bang, like you're not in it.
Got it.
And not out of it forever. Like you're in it and then it moves through you and then you're back in it. And so you get breaks.
Okay, ayahuasca's like that. So if my neighbor comes to the door while I'm doing this, it looks like my neighbor, it's not Santa Claus or some strange alien. I'm not seeing things that aren't there, correct?
You're not, but I wouldn't answer the door.
Right. Okay.
It's not, it's nobody's fucking business. But like I have, and somewhat, and I'm just going to say, as a guide in a high dose trip. So I was working with somebody with severe trauma. We had worked for months and months and months. And this was probably the third or fourth trip. And it was this was what is called a heroic dose. So it's a very high dose, but we had worked our way up to this point. And this particular client was not convinced, but curious that I had a demonic face.
Okay.
And so that was true for this client in that situation. And for me to be, as a guide, like supporting that is just to be in the space with this person and how they're experiencing that. He was more curious about it than scared, but it was definitely kind of like, why am I seeing Kathleen in this way? And what is behind that? Which, I did say that this person had a lot of trauma, and a lot of that trauma came through violence and in the home. And, it's not mine to say how that happened, but a lot of people were not safe. And that safety was showing up in his experience and coming from me. Had I reacted, it would have been dangerous for both of us. But I didn't. Like, that was his thing. That's what happened. So, but that was like a really high dose. So,
and my gut feeling on that is the trauma may have pictured any healing thing. Like the trauma was trying to stay. So it may have been like, this is demonic if you're trying to help yourself. That's just my gut.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people have those kinds of experiences because they've been taught they should be guilty or they should be shameful or they deserve this. And to be releasing that shame or that fear or that guilt is like
terrifying.
And it's dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. And so that was, a guided situation in the past. That particular client had worked through a lot with me in one-on-one work. And now I support that client independent of our work together. He does work on his own.
An interesting thing with that also is there is I know somewhere there's a phone number if you're having a bad mushroom trip. So a bad mushroom trip probably isn't things you don't recognize in your house. Is it probably emotional? I can't do it kind of thing? Or do people actually really there's something horrible standing in front of me?
Yeah, so it's 52 Fireside. They offer support for psychedelic support hotline. which is 52 Fireside. And I think they honestly have only a certain number of hours on their hotline, but it is a free service. So people can prepare their trips, they can do their trips, and they can integrate their trips for free with Fireside.
Nice.
And yeah, but it is kind of disorienting. And I sometimes I make a joke. I do trip with one particular friend, and oftentimes they're more therapeutic than fun. Like we lay on the floor on a shag rug and cry together. But like we make a joke, like what timeline are we in? What dimension are we in? Like what the fuck? And I one time in a trip was like, motherfucking men. I was just like, motherfucker. Like I had a lot to say. There's no men in my life that I feel that way about, but I have had those feelings.
I always think that's the patriarchy. It's not pointed at one, but it's pointed at a lot of things. Yeah.
And like, it felt really good to be so fucking vulgar about this experience. And then I kind of heard myself speaking, and I thought, oh, like that's me. So like there was some pleasure in this release, but there was also a little bit of dissociation, like who's saying that? And then when I realized it was me saying it, it was like, oh, okay, that does make sense. And that was a different, like we joke, that's a different timeline, that's a different dimension. Like I felt that way in the past, and now I still feel that way, obviously on some level, but I don't have like the same sort of, attachment to that like shit.
Yeah.
But also say there was a time that I did have a higher dose experience, and my husband was with me. He has an Apple Watch, and he, for whatever reason, has an app on his watch that measures decibels. And if it's over an unsafe decibel for your ears, the Apple Watch vibrates. I was causing a lot of vibration in his watch.
By yelling or just by being?
By like screaming, yelling, crying, all the things. And, that wasn't great, but I think at that time it was what I needed. And I have unpacked. I've been in therapy for 25 years. I am a life coach. I worked in the mental health field. Like I'm aware in my head of a lot of the stuff that I experienced in my life. But in a psychedelic experience, it's the somatic, it's the feeling in the body. So if we sort things through in our head, we can make sense of them, but it doesn't actually allow the body to be relieved of the pain that it's carrying. Psychedelics are a full experience in the body. So this was like an opportunity for my body to just be like unhinged. And had I not known what I know, would I have scared the shit out of myself and not wanted to ever do that again? And one of the things that you mentioned was a bad trip. That would have been considered a bad trip. It was like scary as fuck, but I would do it again. Like the result of that, the relief of that, it felt like I had like scrubbed my insides with a metal brush while it was happening. But like the shit that was out of there after it was over was like, oh my God. It was like, a good shit. It was really good.
Right. So, well, that is, here's the other part of that where this could go either way, which is if you don't know your shadow side and don't accept it, you might not be releasing it. It might come up as something terrifying.
Yeah.
So you had done enough therapy. It's like, I know, in my therapy, I know that I get very angry or I get controlling or that stuff. So if I'm not aware of that, I may have to sort of, it may be like not to be able, if I don't know how to surrender the control or say, oh, that's me, then it could be terrifying.
Yeah.
That may be, would that be maybe where your imagination or your person would sort of project something?
Yeah, like our imagination. It's interesting that in our imagination we have like there's oftentimes no language. There are many experiences that we had in our life that have no language. So we can have feelings or pictures that aren't attached to language. And so being able to have an imagination and process that, I think, is a beautiful gift. And definitely psychedelics offer that.
Wow, fantastic. I don't want to end this here, but I want to switch because we only have a few minutes left, and I want to go back to something with the breath work. And I'm throwing this at you unsolicited. So if it's like we would need more time or something like that, there are actual breathing techniques that can take you to sort of the same place, aren't there? Little bit?
Absolutely.
But I will tell you, I've tried them and they are hard. You have to stay with them, and sometimes you feel out of breath and sometimes you start to black out. So this has to be done. But do you have a breathing exercise that you could explain to us about psychic development or the pineal gland? Yes.
Oh my gosh, you're hilarious. You're throwing this at me now. Yes, of course.
And hold on a second. Okay, folks, I paused that because I was like, you just threw that at her, and Kathleen's like, I got it.
Okay.
You're awesome. Okay, tell us.
Yes. Okay. So this is, again, people wanting to activate their pineal gland or their third eye, which can happen anecdotally. Like, this is what people say, and I've experienced it. So, but what the premise of breath work, like Karen keeps saying, lots of work. We need more oxygen in than out. So really big breaths in and high intensity is going to flip the brain, because what is happening is that oxygen is converting into CO2. That CO2 is bathing the brain in like nice, juicy chemicals. The body measures CO2 to know how much oxygen it needs. So if the body has a high level of CO2, it doesn't think that it needs that much oxygen, but you're continuing to force that breath in. So because it's measuring that CO2 in the brain, it says, oh, I'm completely free. And this happens when you sleep and when you die. So that's why we dream. And that's apparently why people, feel that that transition in their death. But that beautiful, juicy CO2 clicks the brain into a place where it says, I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to do anything. I'm just here for the ride. And because it's not thinking about the breathing, it accesses all the other parts of it, including the pineal gland. So that opening is available because the brain's not shutting it down. Because having, an opening in the third eye is, we can't walk around like that. It's not, it's not safe. Yeah. So we have to be able to activate it safely and in that situation, because all the systems are checked. The brain's like, we're good. What do you want to do now? Kind of bored. What can we produce? We're going to produce this juiciness. So it actually produces DMT in the brain, which is released in the pineal gland. So that takes us to that experience. If you want to activate it more, there's a system which is not breathe. It's part of breath work, but it's not breathing. It's actually breath retention. And so when you have activated, you've brought in all that CO2, your brain is like, good, everything's good. We don't have to think about anything. And then you hold the breath. That it's almost like constricting, like it's a reverse Kundalini awakening, where you're holding the breath where that energy flows up the spine in the opposite direction. So up into the brain.
Okay. I saw Joe Dispenza talking about this. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So that that breath retention, because you don't need any more oxygen. Your brain doesn't think it needs more oxygen because you're like super saturated with CO2. So you have a long time you can sit in that moment without breathing. And I have had, like, most people can only hold their breath for 30 seconds, if that. I've had moments with being able to enhance breathing, breathe. And then I get myself kind of floaty. It's not hyperventilating. It's the oxygen and the CO2 exchange. So that ability to hold your breath, it increases 1, 2, 3 plus minutes.
Wow.
And while you're and then when you release the breath, the body's like, oh man, that was good, because you've got a fresh rush of oxygen. So you're basically like giving yourself a psychedelic experience without the drugs.
So, and if I'm correct, he was explaining that you instead of taking a breath in and expanding out, you take a breath in and you hold your stomach in. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's like a constricted breath. So you're almost, I know this is for women when you're doing Kegels, it's like you're forcing the breath up the spine, like it's an opposite. So it's like reverse shitting, like you're pushing through the spine and up.
And if we visualize, I think I just did it because I just visualized it going up my spine and up the back of my skull. And then we inhale like that and just hold it, or we do it in and out.
So the preparation to do that is a lot of, I would say probably 2 to 3 minutes of enhanced breathing. So, but more breath in than out. So I'm just going to show like, so you're getting a lot of breath in and less out. So if you can do that for, 2 to 3 minutes.
That is
and
hard,
then breath,
okay. And then hold it in. Okay.
Yeah. And then the breath in. So I'm just going to breathe and then hold. The other thing that you can do is exhale and hold. But I find that reverse constriction is more helpful while holding. Honestly, just a preference. So I hold.
Okay, great. Wow, Kathleen, I am so glad I found you again somehow. in my email, I put you in. I was like, where is she? And I found you. This has been wonderful. Can you tell everybody where they can find you? Or I know I have coachkathleen.com, but anything else you want people to know where they can find you or follow you or whatever works?
Yes, it's actually Coach Kathleen Oh, which is spelled O-H.
Oh, glad you said that.
Kathleen, yeah, coachkathleeno.com. And it's Coach Kathleen O on TikTok. And it's The Real Coach O on Instagram. And you'll see a blank page. But I don't know, I probably show up on Instagram maybe 2 or 3 times a week. But I do answer direct messages on Instagram and TikTok. And if you sign up through my website, coachkathleeno.com, there's a free breathwork trial. There's also a free microdosing guide. And in the guide, you'll get the Canadian source as well as the American source for microdosing capsules. They discreetly ship. They do lots of good, products, and also the payment is easy, like e-transfer. I don't know actually what they do, but anyways,
we'll
it's
all
easy
figure
to do it.
Yes, we will figure it out.
Yeah.
And, well, wonderful. All right. Thank you, Kathleen. This was fantastic. I hope you will stay in touch and it's not 5 years again.
Oh, Karen, even if it is, it's, it feels like we've done this forever.
Yes.
So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. You go to karenrontowski.com if you want to book a reading or buy my class. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. And folks, everybody be careful out there on Instagram and on social media. And we'll see you next week.